Hey guys, it's Danny. Today is the 1st of July, so it's time to see what orchids we had in bloom for the month of June. Don't forget that you can vote for your favorite orchid this month following the link below. It is a link to a straw poll. All you need to do is just click on your favorite orchid this month, and at the end of the year we're gonna do this big popularity contest that we did last year, and it was pretty fun. So if you'd like to express your support for your favorite orchid in my collection, you'll find the link in the description below. And with that said, let's start with one of my favorite orchids. This is the BC St. Andre. Like you've probably never seen her before, I never showed it to you like this. This is what happens after about a week and a half since it bloomed, or even 2 weeks. When this flower first opens, the lip is a beautiful, sweet, purple-pink color. But as the flower ages, the color transforms into this pretty spotted, rustic, I might say, peachy color. It is actually beautiful, and the flower is really not on her way out. It still smells beautifully in the nighttime. It is a nighttime fragrant orchid, and the flower is just as big. Currently, this orchid is residing outside, and as you can see, the flower became home to a little spider, which is fine by me. I think these little spiders can actually feed on orchid pests and plant pests, so they're welcome. The only problem with this orchid this month is that it bloomed from a cane which does not have a leaf. This is not supposed to happen. The orchid herself looks good, and as you can see, it is supposed to create leaves and pseudobulbs. It is a Brassavola hybrid, and it does look like a Brassavola. This year though, it suffered a little bit of an anomaly here. I suspect this formation will just fade. I'm not even sure if it has a growing eye, but you know what? A flower is a flower. It's just that it's a little strange. Next up, we had a first-time bloomer, a radicans type of Epidendrum, which has the variety name CT Vigor. This is a cluster bloomer, just like the Sister My Love, which we had in bloom a few months ago, or actually a couple of months ago, but the flowers are orange, and they are these really light but very pronounced orange that I've hardly ever seen in any flower. I absolutely love it. The flowers have no fragrance. These types of epidendrums, which are also called reed stem epidendrums, are not known for their fragrance. I don't suspect there is any reed stem epidendrum which possesses a fragrance, so their strong point is actually the way they bloom and the fact that they are sequential bloomers. Each cluster can produce a new set of buds and a new set of flowers, and the overall blooming can take several months. These guys enjoy warm temperatures. Currently, this one is outside, loving the sunshine, and overall they are pretty easy to grow. I'm currently looking for other varieties and colors to add to my collection since I can easily grow them outside. They can tolerate the heat, so they theoretically should not take a lot of space in my grow room. Next up, we have the Epidendrum Milano Porphyrion, which is an epidendrum, but it's not a reed stem. It is currently not in bloom. The blooms don't last all that long on this orchid, but we did make a feature video with this orchid, and just look at him. I call him my little dragon because the flowers just remind me of dragons. What's really striking about the flowers is, of course, the lip. It looks like a little mustache or a little goatee, a beard related type of thing. And also the petals. Just look how thin they are. They look like antennas. Overall, the flowers are just super interesting. It is a premiere for my orchid collection. I have him for about a year already, and he's pretty easy to grow for a cool grower. Yeah, this guy is a cool to intermediate type of grower, not a warm grower. But he does okay in my grow room, so I'm not complaining. Again, there is no fragrance with this orchid. I'm not sure how many epidendrums are super fragrant, but this one is certainly not. So he was a joy to have in bloom, really lovely orchid, and I'm looking forward to future blooms. Next up, well, would you look at that? We have the Nellie Isler in bloom. Now mind you, the blooms this month, they don't look so good. Look at that, dried edges, this sort of pigmentation tessellation which looks really awful. This is all caused by high temperatures. This orchid is not a warm grower, she's more of an intermediate to cool grower, and always flowers look a lot better in the colder seasons. In the warmest months of the year, which are these months, the flowers are just completely. So this tessellation that you see here, it's really interesting. I had it happen on a Cattleya as well, and I freaked out. I thought it was spider mites because it looks like something grazed on the flowers, but it's not. The Cattleya I had issues with is the Hawaiian Splash Leia, and surprise, surprise, that one blooms better in colder months as well. So that's what's happening with the Nellie Isler. The bloom display is just, it's weird. It doesn't look all that great. Fragrance is not all that great, but it is July and it's very hot right now. It is the middle of summer. However, though, I appreciate the orchid for trying to bloom. She is bouncing back. If you know a little thing or two about me, you might know that my favorite orchid is the Nellie Isler, but I don't have much luck with it since I live in a hot climate. Growing Nellie Islers, and actually Phalaenopsis and heat, or actually in hot climates, is not impossible actually. And you can improvise a little corner for them and a little setup, which we'll talk about in a different video, but you cannot really do anything about the flowers. They will not look as good as they do in the winter time. So this is the Nellie Isler. I do like the flower spike. It has quite a few flowers considering how finicky she is, but yeah, the flowers are just not the prettiest. Anyway, I'm happy she's actually doing well and has a lot of roots and has new growth as well. From a cool to intermediate grower to a warm grower, what a difference. This is Cattleya Jungle Eyes. She has become pretty much a regular bloomer for me. She blooms once a year ever since she recuperated. At some point this orchid did not have roots. She grew very slow and yeah, she needed to just bounce back. Well, she did. I'm hoping though that it will start blooming more than once a year, although maybe once a year is the normal schedule. She is an Eclandier hybrid actually. And just like last year, here we have her in bloom again. This is a beautiful spotted, jungly, I might add, looking like flower that I really adore. She is also fragrant. It is a daytime fragrance and it reminds me of, I think you call them mothballs in English. Those things that you put against moths in your closet, yeah, it kind of smells like that. This year more intense than in other years because she is a very healthy orchid right now. Even though this orchid is a bifoliate, sometimes it creates a pseudobulb with one leaf which can bloom. That's totally fine. If you look at pictures with this orchid on the internet, you'll see that she can actually produce both of these types of canes. And as per usual, she blooms regularly with this beautiful spotted goldeny flower. Next up, we had a Vendacious orchid. This is the Aridis Hulesiana, which you guys picked for me to purchase. And oh my goodness, what beautiful blooms. This orchid needs a better root system. She's a new addition to my collection and she had to adjust to my environment. She had to make do with her not so well looking root system, and also with this beautiful pendant flower spike, there were a lot of resources needed, so the flowers didn't last all that long. Actually, they faded before the actual spike managed to bloom completely. But while the flowers were in bloom, I really enjoyed them because of their fragrance. This is a daytime fragrant orchid and the flowers smell like lemons. Absolutely fantastic. And I'm not referring here to that sourness you get from lemons. It is a really beautiful and yummy, I might add, fragrance. It is also pretty powerful, so beware of that. Currently the orchid is actually looking better. The leaves are not so leathery anymore. The flower spike is gone, sadly. So I'm expecting better blooms and fingers crossed, who knows, maybe a better color next year as well. Anna seems to think that she will have a better color. I don't know about that. I will try to make my peace with the color it has right now. Typically this orchid can be more orangey than this. And you know me, I like orange, but that's okay. I don't need to be that obsessed about it, right? Overall, I really love the Hulesiana and that fragrance is absolutely amazing. And from here on we have orchids which are not in bloom anymore. First of all, the Dendrobium harveyanum, which was the surprise of the month. I think this is my favorite orchid of the month. I don't want to influence you guys, but just look at that color and look at that frilly flower. It has little fringes both on the petals but also on the lip, and the color is a beautiful intense orangey yellow, kind of. Well, it's yellow, it's not orange, but you know what I'm saying. It's not that pale and washed away yellow. Also, the fragrance absolutely reminds me of dandelions. Typically, people refer to the fragrance as honey-ish like, or even jasmine-y like. But to me, I don't know, it hits a chord. It's absolutely not honey at all. Although I can see the resemblance, to me it's dandelion. But hey, each of us is different, so it's going to be a surprise what it smells like to you. So when I presented this orchid, I was saying, what if it tries to resemble dandelions? And then somebody told me that in their natural habitat, no, there are no dandelions. So yeah, I agree with that. It was just an idea, just a sort of imagination exercise. I wasn't really serious. But as my viewer suggested, there are actually flowers which bloom like that. And I just remember a flower from my childhood. It had purple fuzzy leaves, and then the flowers were very, very similar to dandelions. They were yellow, and if I'm not mistaken, they were actually creating that puff when they turned to seed. So there we have it. I think it is a typical or proven to work type of flower in nature. And I don't know, maybe the harveyanum tries to imitate something of the sort. Maybe it's just natural evolution that led to this, and behold, that is how the harveyanum looks like. Whatever the case might be, it is an absolutely beautiful plant. I have two divisions of this guy, one in semi-hydro, one in sphagnum moss in the cooler setup. I just want to see which one grows better because I really don't want to lose this orchid. This is an intermediate to cool grower, and yeah, I have a warm environment here. But as other cooler growers do okay in my environment, I really hope this one will do okay with a little bit of work on my behalf. Next up, another Dendrobium with fringy flowers, but this time only the lip, the Dendrobium parishii, which again is one of my favorite deciduous dendrobiums actually. It has beautiful magenta purple flowers, it has a beautiful raspberry fragrance. I'm not sure if I see the raspberry per se, I can see the resemblance, but I don't know, it has a beautiful smell nonetheless. And the vast majority of people say it smells like raspberry, so maybe that's what you will sense as well when you smell the flowers of this orchid. It loses its leaves once a year, that's great. It is supposed to do that. Do not worry if you have this orchid and it's starting to lose its leaves in the autumn. It blooms again once a year, typically in spring, in summer in my climate actually, and it produces a multitude of flowers on a not so long cane. This is the advantage with the parishii. It's not as big as the anosmum, so it is more fitted to grow rooms. Next up, we had a Catasetum orchid in bloom. Yeah, in the middle of summer. This is the Pileatum Pierre Curet or Curet crossed with red penna. It is a beautiful, majestic Catasetum type orchid which blooms on immature growths. It has really, really big flowers and a fragrance that resembles mint. It is absolutely wonderful. However, the flowers last, take a guess, a few days, a week maybe. And I'm not referring to each individual flower. Each individual flower lasts only a few days, and within a week your display will not look as good. So yeah, it's just so short lasting. Even the Wine Delight lasts longer. But hey, I do absolutely love the flowers and it just maybe makes it special. So if you don't mind the very ephemeric, let's call them like that, blooms, then definitely this is a really nice Catasetum to grow. It's not different than other Catasetums with its requirements. I care for it the same way. It's just that it blooms on immature growths in the middle of summer. And P.S. I have the other Pileatum cross in bud right now, so it's gonna take about 2 months for the flower spike to develop and a few days to enjoy the blooms. How about that? And lastly, I do have to mention the Phalaenopsis Leodoro because she bloomed on the flower spike that I broke, and also she continued blooming a little bit more from this flower spike. The Leodoro is one of my favorite hybrids. They're all my favorites. I think I'm gonna stop saying that. I really love the Leodoro for its fragrance. It is a daytime fragrant orchid, and for the color of her blooms, which are really not like typical Phalaenopsis blooms. She is what you would call a novelty hybrid, I suppose. The orchid herself, though, is a very big girl and it doesn't produce a lot of blooms at once. It doesn't produce that beautiful cascade that you see with the complex hybrids in the stores. However, though, the blooms are fragrant, so I think that's a compensation. And I was always wondering if the flower spikes are sequential, and yes, they are. I suggest that if your orchid is perfectly healthy, do not cut them if they're green, because year after year they will bloom actually. At least mine did. Some of them will branch as well, and the branches will continue to bloom year after year. Even if you break the branch, it will still continue to bloom. So yeah, in the end you can have a big orchid, yes, but you can have a multitude of flower spikes. When I first purchased my first Deodoro, it had 7, if you can believe it. So yeah, right now this one has 3. One I broke, of course, but that's okay, it branched out. And each flower spike can branch out, even if not in the first year, so that's a bonus. Okay guys, so these were the orchids in bloom for this month. We have a few others in bloom, but they're not in full bloom. They still have a few buds to open. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and maybe gave you some new ideas for your wish list. And don't forget to vote for your favorite orchid this month by visiting the link to the straw poll down below in the description. So with that said, you know the drill. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos, tutorials, Q&As, and things of the sort. And if you'd like YouTube to notify you whenever I upload a new video, just turn on notifications for my channel and hopefully YouTube will notify you. PS, YouTube is undergoing again some changes apparently. You might not see my videos sometimes, you might not see the proper thumbnails and things of the sort, what to do. All I can tell you is that if you didn't see a video in a long time from me, visit back. I typically upload every single day with a few exceptions. So with that said, hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye!